Hello there, it's Jay here from Jay's Vintage Junk, and something slightly different today. Nothing electronic today. I've got this in. Basically what I've got here, this is the cabinet for a Decca radiogram that my mate Andy over on Vintage Electronics Repair is restoring for another chap called Andy, which this will get quite confusing. Anyway, basically a few weeks ago I was over there. He asked me to take my valve tester over and go through some of the valves for this set and get a good set out of two. Basically the chap bought two of these radiograms, both with issues, with the intention of getting Andy to make one good one out of the two. And while I was over there testing the valves, we actually discovered that this cabinet's got woodworm, and that's why I've ended up with it here. Basically, the cabinet actually is in really nice condition. We don't normally see them that have been looked after like this. There's a few very minor little blemishes on the top of it, one there, couple over there. It's a bit dirty, it needs a really deep clean. There's a couple of chips out of the front there, but these are all easily repairable without completely refinishing the cabinet. The finish is far too good for that. But what Andy's basically asked me to do is sort the woodworm issue out on it, and then sort some of these little issues with the cabinet out, and basically just give the cabinet a really good refurbish without completely stripping it and redoing it. Because quite honestly, the finish on this is a bit too good to go to that level on. We'll open it up. These are really nice radiograms. I actually restored the mono version of one of these for someone a few years ago, and they have a really good chassis in them. They sound fantastic, and they're quite a nice looking set. This actually hasn't got its legs on, it should stand on four short legs. Very late 50s, early 60s is the design really. We'll open up there, and obviously the radio chassis would fit in there. Then we've got the deck down there, and unfortunately the worm isn't terrible, but it is a little bit worse than I first thought it was. At first I thought it was just the underneath of the actual top there, which had some worm in it. I have since seen, now I've got it in the light in my living room, we've got some wormholes down on this bottom plate there. Also on this, basically on the record player plinth here, this has also got a few wormholes in it. Now fortunately I believe Andy's changing that because the chap wants him to put another deck that he, out of the other radiogram, actually in this cabinet, because it's a slightly better deck than this one. And it's a different plinth, so we'll use the plinth out of the other radiogram. So that shouldn't be so much of a problem, but we do need to get that out of there so we can actually treat this properly. So what I think we'll do, let's just spin it round and we can have a look, have a quick look at the back. Unfortunately, these aren't too heavy. We can just turn it round. Ooh, there we go. Now I will have to take all this off. In fact, we'll do that now so we can actually get in there. Yes, this is the model. It's an SRG-500. This model. This is stereo radiogram 500. Take these off. I'll find a little pot and then I can put all these screws that I've taken out on a little pot, and then we're not actually going to lose them, they can go back in. But really we need to take all these off so we can actually really have a good look quite how bad the worm is. Right. Now I can see evidence of the woodworm down here. There's some worm dust there. Evidence of it up here. that motorboard's definitely got a dose of it. Now, I do need to see if I can get that motorboard out. Now, I think Andy said he was struggling with a few of the fixings on it. I think on the front panel, oh sorry, underneath, because it's free from the back there. I can move that up there. I think it's where it's secured at the front of the actual cabinet that it's not coming out. So what I'll do, I'll probably have to flip this on its back so we can actually get to those screws. So I'll just switch you off for a second. I'll reposition the camera and I'll get this flipped over onto its back, and we can actually look and see if we can get that motorboard out. And then we can really assess quite how bad the worm damage is. I mean, I can see it in the motorboard has got quite a few wormholes in it, but I'm not that concerned about that because, like I said, that we aren't going to be reusing that. It'll be reusing the one off the donor radiogram. So I'll get us repositioned and we'll be back in a sec. Okay, hopefully you can see what I'm doing, because like I say, I'm working here in the living room, and the lighting isn't exactly brilliant in here. Hopefully when I do get the new workshop stroke studio finally done, which isn't going to be any time soon with the way money is at the moment, but when it is done I will have somewhere proper for doing things like this. Anyway, essentially what we've got a screw here and a screw here, which we need to get out. Now I've got a very flat, pointed, quite sharp screwdriver here, because some of these old screws, they've only got a very narrow slot on them, and a lot of screwdrivers you do struggle actually to get in there. You end up snarling the screw up. This one I've actually ground down very slightly, so it is quite sharp at the end. Not exactly sharp enough to cut yourself, but it is quite a sharp screwdriver. And we put that in the slot. We'll put quite a bit of pressure on as we try and turn it, and that is, there we go. This has been somewhere damp at some point, I think. These screws are pretty rusty, but now that's just spinning in its hole now. So what we can do, and grab a pair of pliers, just get hold of it and just put, basically we're pulling as we twist, and there we go, that one's out. That screw is in quite poor condition, so I don't think that will be going back in, but I will save it for now. Let's see if we get lucky with the other one. We got lucky with that one. Let's try this one. So we'll really press on, and there we go. That is turning. There we go. Now, the screw is actually starting to turn, but it's not actually pulling out yet, it's just spinning in the wood. So what we might have to do, that one's going to be a bit of a pain. Let's get another small screwdriver. I'm going to use that as a wedge down the front, just to give a little bit of tension as we undo that screw there. Let's try turning it again. Right. Yeah, that's... What I don't want to do basically is lever like that and risk marking the wood, so we're just very, very gently levering away while we undo the screw. But I have a feeling that the worm has attacked this piece of wood quite badly. Right, let's get this platter out. And we can see how bad the extent of the worm is. Now there's some wiring here which I'll have to see if I can just quickly disconnect. But even the screw for that's rusted. So it's just the wiring to the motor, so I'll just snip that. I'm sure Andy can reconnect that. Well, he's putting a different deck in it anyway. And we'll also cut the other wires, like I said, because all this is being rewired anyway. And we're better with that wiring out of the way. Right, there we go, that's free. So we should be able to pull the whole motorboard and the turntable out in one now. Yeah. There we go. That's come out. We've got one wire here we just need to free up. I'll balance that on there while I can just pull this wire free. There we go. Right, now we should be able to pull the motorboard out completely. There we go. Out you come. There we are. So that's the motorboard free. Just see if that'll lock down. There we go. And as we can see, if I bring this up, we've got wormholes there, 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 at the back there, all along that side there. Particularly bad if you can make out there. And if we look at the back of it, that's pretty peppered with wormholes. So this has actually got quite a nasty worm infestation. A little bit worse than I first thought actually. At first I thought it was just going to be limited to that top panel there, but unfortunately not. It has got into the bottom panel, it's got into the motorboard. If anyone doesn't know about woodworm, basically it's a little it's a beetle. I don't know whether it's particularly something that just the UK and Europe have, or whether you have them all over the world. I know like in Australia or America you have termites. I don't think it's quite as bad as the termite infestation. They're not as fast. A woodworm infestation takes a very, very long time to get to the point where it actually causes real nasty damage, but it can get there. I can't see any signs of worm damage on the actual base of the cabinet there. That's in nice condition. Let's get this stood back up. So I'm going to have to clean all. I'm just wondering, see if we've got any dead worm beetles, but no, we haven't. Essentially, the life cycle of a woodworm is it's a tiny little beetle, but it's only actually in its beetle state for a very, very short amount of time. It might even be only a few hours. Most of its life, it's a little grub, which basically just bores through dead wood. It won't touch live, living wood, but provided the wood doesn't have to be rotten. That's the thing. There's many insects that eat through rotten wood. The woodworm beetle or the woodworm grub, it will just eat dead wood. It can be perfectly solid wood like that. It doesn't matter. It'll eat through it. But essentially, it spends most of its life as this little grub eating through the wood. After, I think it spends something like 7 years or 5 years. It's a long time it spends as this little beetle anyway, this little grub anyway, and then it pupates, and it basically eats its way out as this little beetle, this little winged beetle, but they can't fly. All they can do is glide, and they basically go and find another little beetle, do what little beetles do. Then the female goes and lays its eggs on another piece of dead wood. When the eggs hatch, they burrow down into the wood and the whole cycle starts again. So it's you may have many generations of the same beetles basically eating the same piece of furniture, being that they can't fly very far. Like I said, all they can do is basically just glide down. So if it comes out inside the cabinet, it's going to flutter down to the other part of the cabinet, lay its egg, and there you go. That's why we get things like this, where we'll have a little bit of an infestation down here, even though probably the main infestation's up here. But it's because as they've emerged, they've found a way, they've laid eggs, they've gone in. And basically, if you could x-ray this, inside the wood there'll be hundreds of tiny little burrowed tunnels all the way through the wood. And if they're left for too long, basically it gets to the point where the wood becomes spongy, and there's just no integrity left in the wood, and there's not a huge amount you can do with a cabinet when it's got to that state. I've got a very quite a rare Pi Sunrise radio down in my cellar. I did treat that many years ago, and the worm hasn't come back, but the worm had eaten it so much it's going to be an incredibly brave restoration. It's probably a case of using the original cabinet as a pattern to make a new cabinet. It's essentially that bad. And my cat has decided to say hello. This is my cat, I believe. Yes. I believe someone was asking about my animals. Well, I have. There's a dog down there as well, actually, under there. But yeah, I have a cat and a dog, and that was my cat. They're both rescue animals as well. Anyway, less about my animals, more about the radiogram. So first thing we're really going to have to do is clean up in here and see if we've got any more wormholes actually in the carcass. In fact, I've just spotted there's one there. Right, what I'm going to do, I'll put you on pause. I will go and get some a bit of soapy water. We'll clean the inside of this cabinet out so we can actually see quite how bad it is, and I'll get you down right in here and you can see all the holes we've got in this bottom section, and we'll take it from there. So back in a sec. Okay, as you can see, I've actually gone ahead and I've given that a really good clean. As you can see, that was pretty filthy, but I mean, it's just the dirt and grime that basically these builds up on these. But we can actually now see it's not horrendous. We've basically got 4 wormholes in this bottom section, so we've got 1, 2, 3, 4. The rest of it actually doesn't look bad at all. I can't see any other wormholes. So we've only got those 4 there. There's one here, right in the corner. There's one there. I think we've got really lucky, there's none across the front there. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to put some treatment basically in these holes and let the work. This is a woodworm killer. This is a woodworm treatment. It's quite nasty stuff, so you don't really want to get it on your fingers. But essentially, what we're going to do is we're going to drip some of that down into the holes, and that will actually soak down into the woodworm's flight holes. Wherever you get a hole, it's basically where one of the beetles has actually come out of the wood. It is not it's not where they have entered the wood. So there isn't a living beetle in there. But what it does is it allows that fluid to basically go into the wood, and it will disperse through the wood. And then when the active beetle actually eat it, it kills them instantly. It basically turns the wood into a giant pesticide, so it basically poisons the food source. So as we know that there have been woodworm active around this area, by actually, like I said, putting that down into the holes, that will wick down into there and actually soak into the wood, and like I said, any other woodworm that are in that area, it will basically kill them. What we're also going to do is all the wood here where there isn't any paint, we will put some of this basically into a little container, and I will paint all the bare wood just with a coat of this, but I won't be doing that just yet. I'll be done right at the end, because then what I'll do is actually I'll wrap this cabinet in some cling film, and it's going to be left for a week in a warm area, basically completely surrounded in cling film. And what that does is, as this stuff outgasses, it essentially it gasses any of the little buggers that are in there. I've found it quite effective using that method of actually dealing with woodworm. Anyway, what we'll do, we'll flip this cabinet over and we'll have a look at the what I consider to be the worst part of the cabinet. This is the part that we originally saw that led us to actually discover that this cabinet did have woodworm in it. So we'll flip it over. There we go. Fortunately, basically that's the board that the chassis sits on. That's absolutely fine. I'll take this backboard off. Let's get these wires out of the way there for the speakers and the aerial. Don't need to worry about those too much. Not sure what that one is. That is the... Oops, that's the mains cable. We got out of the way. I believe Andy's put a new mains cable on the new chassis anyway, but I will give him that back. Right, we'll take these out. Put the screws up there, out of the way. There's one more, I think. We'll pull that out of the way. That's got a little bit of worm dust on it, but it's not in. It's in absolutely perfect condition anyway, so that's perfect to reuse. So there's the model number there, SRG-500. And here's the horror. If we look, the worm is, it's the whole, the top of the cabinet here is completely infested. Let me see if I can get you down so you can actually see this a little bit closer. I'm sorry the lighting's not, in fact I've got a torch or something. I haven't even got my phone. Oh, hang on a minute. Let's see if I can just get a little bit more light on it for you. Not much, but it might be enough to help. Can we see in there now? And see all this. Basically, the whole, the top. In fact, I'm going to take the back covers off the speakers, because I believe it goes into there as well. Fortunately, it's not got into any of these uprights or anything by the look of it. It just seems to be limited to the actual top. Just turn this thing off again. Let me take this back off the speaker cabinet and we can have a look. Definitely been damp at some point, judging by the way these screws are coming out. They're very rusty. I think someone's been in here as well, because that screw was in at a rather jaunty angle. Let's see if we can get this one out. Yeah. Let's see what horrors we've got behind behind this grill. Another screw here that's been mangled at some point in the past. I've got it out though. Right. I have to do something about that foam which is disintegrating on the back. But yeah, the worm damage is all in here as well. So the worm has indeed got all the way right in. Oh, let me see if I can just get it this way a bit for you so you can see in there. But essentially the worm damage is all in there as well. It doesn't seem to have got into these upright pieces. There's a little bit of hole in that block there, but we can treat that. It's not terrible. We'll have a look at the other side while we're here. Get you onto the other speaker. Oops, zoom you out a little bit. But yeah, the top's basically got quite a nasty. It's got quite a nasty infestation of woodworm. So fortunately, the rest of the cabinet doesn't look bad at all. We've only got that little bit which I've treated. And like I say, I will paint the rest of that before I wrap this thing in plastic. All these screws, so a lot of these screws we may actually have to replace because they've been damaged in the past. Not mangled heads or they're severely corroded, but there's nothing fancy about these screws, that's easy enough. Right, okay, let's see what's behind this door. What's behind door number 2? Yeah, it's even, again, we'll have to do something about that foam which is disintegrating. But if I can just perhaps zoom you down and in a little bit. Nowhere near as bad, but we do still, even right back here, we do still have flight holes in here. Fortunately, the side of the cabinet does not look bad at all. We do have some flight holes on the back of here as well, I've just noticed, up here. In fact, quite a few of them, so the whole of the back of this is going to need treating as well. So yeah, there is actually quite a lot of worm in this cabinet. I have seen worse, I have treated worse fortunately. It's not the end of the world. So basically what I've got to do now is go around all the holes with this stuff and treat all the holes so this stuff actually wicks down in there, and once I've done that we will get some on a literally just pour it. Let's get you over so you can see what I'm doing. I'm literally flooding the worst areas with the actual woodworm killer. You can see like that, and this will soak right in there. I said it will find all them flight holes. It will go into all them flight holes. It will poison the wood, so any other active woodworm, as soon as it eats the wood that's been poisoned with this stuff, will die off. There we go. Leave that down there. And what I'll do, let me get you zoomed out again. Oops. I'll tip it on its back and we'll go along there, because I did notice some flight holes along there as well. So let's tip it on its back. Like that. And we'll do, let's get you up there so you can see what we're doing. And we'll do the flight holes I can see here, along there, some more here, there's one more there. Obviously you've got to make sure it's a flight hole and not a screw hole, because sometimes they can look kind of similar. There's another one there, so we'll run that along. And this stuff really does creep into the wood, it does soak in. Like that. So we'll do the same along here, because this is near where we've seen flight holes. Because this is ply and we go right along the edge like that, it will just wick into the ply, and like I said, that will, anything that then gets in there and tries to eat it, it'll just die. And that is basically it. So I will, before I wrap this up in the cling film, like I say, I will put a little bit of this in a pot and just paint anywhere else that I haven't, like on the back sides up there. I'll basically go over the rest of the cabinet with some of this, and another one there that I've just spotted. I'll coat everything with a dose of that. Once that's done, this is just good old-fashioned cling film, just like you'd buy from the supermarket to wrap your sandwiches in. And basically what I'll do is I will wrap the entire cabinet in this, and that will keep all those fumes in there, and it'll be kept in the living room here for a week. That will allow all them vapours basically to do the job, and then we should be able to get into, we'll do a little bit of filling on it essentially, and fill some of those holes in, see if we can put a little bit of the structure back into there, help stabilise it a little bit, and then we'll get on and we'll have a look at doing some refinishing work to the cabinet. Anyway, I will quickly pause the video. I'll just get this thing into a state that I'm going to leave it for the week, and then we'll come right back. So back in a sec. Okay, and there we go. That's basically the cabinet. I've given it a quick all the inside of it painted over with the woodworm killer, and basically, as you can see, I've just covered the entire thing with wraps of cling film like that. You can get proper industrial cling wrap, but to be honest, I find it's cheaper just to use cling film. The radiogram cabinet there is now going to be left for a week, and like I said, I'm going to leave it in my dining room where it's nice and warm, and that'll allow that chemical to do its job. And then we will have a look at sorting out the cosmetics on the actual cabinet, and then it should be able to go back to Andy. Andy can put the chassis and the different refurbished record deck in it, and it's ready for the other Andy to collect. So hope you enjoyed that video. Like I said, there will be a part 2 to this once that the woodworm killer's done its work and we can actually sort some of the issues with the cabinet out. So I'll do a quick video on that as well. So I hope you enjoyed that. Thanks for watching, and goodbye.